Hey, we're live again. Thank you, everyone. Simon Bliss here, Chairman at Team. Welcome to your next Team AI episode. And we've got the host today, Kalpesh Baxi. So pleased to have you on this session.
Thank you very much.
This is titled, it's episode 2, When AI Works and When It Should Stay Human. Very sensible subject. So Kalpesh, let's get into it. Everyone's talking about AI adoption, but from your perspective, what are most leaders still getting fundamentally wrong? You're going to take us through this, aren't you?
I am, and look, very total transparency. And I think for anyone that knows me, I'm a recruiter at heart. That's a born again tech geek is probably the easiest way to put it. So we're going to try and get through today, Simon, without mentioning any buzzword bingo. Anything that will completely fry people's brains, anything where you and I sit there and go, sorry, what did you say? And try and give people some practical tips to take away. And if they stay to the end, we've got a special deal for them.
Marvelous. Thank you, sir. And hopefully some wonderful stuff you've already done for us at Team HQ, which I can share a little bit about. Well, I'm going to mute now. I'm going to give you, you have the floor, Kalpesh, and if I see an interesting question or if I want one, please use the chat, everyone. And Jahisha, I know in the background, will fire some of those key questions up. But if I see one, I'm going to jump in, Kalpesh, or we can deal with them at the end.
Yeah, no, we'll do them as we go along. But also, Simon, we've agreed we're going to keep the presentation short to allow time for questions.
Cool, even better. Cool. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful.
Take it away.
Thank you very much. Jahisha, can you do the honours? Thank you very much. So, hi, everyone. So anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Kalpesh Baxi still. 29 years in recruitment, tried to leave about 5 times, keep getting pulled back in. Love what we do. Started off working for a big recruitment company. If I fast forward the last 6 years, I've been involved in rec tech, HR tech, future work ecosystems. I've been involved with Team now, coming up to 3 years as well. Super excited, run the London region, the East Anglia region, and this year will be my 4th Team conference. So that's my little first conference plug on behalf of Jahisha. Okay, so today's all about when AI works and when it should just stay human. So this is the 2nd episode in the AI Impact series. We have 5 in altogether. So hopefully you'll stay tuned for the next 3 coming as well. Okay, so let's do a little bit of interaction. If we were live, I'd get you all standing up and putting your hands up to share with it. But let's use the chat function today and answer these 3 questions. And what I want you to do is put a tick or a yes if it's a positive, a cross or an N if it's a negative, and just stick in a question mark or another emoji as you feel free. So question number 1, who is using AI today? And AI today could be in any part of your recruitment workflow, whether it's sourcing, screening, admin, or communication. This is the point I do my little countdown, little bit of noise as it goes on. Okay, question 2. Is it helping you make decisions? And this is really interesting when we go through the journey of today and subsequently. Most people can't answer that question because they don't know whether AI is influencing decisions in ways that they can't fully explain or trace. And as recruiters, this is really important because there's a bit of legislation that you need to know about as well. Got a couple of yeses coming in. Brilliant. Okay, that's good. Positive yeses. Okay. Question 3. Question 3 is, are you entirely sure how to use AI? And, I've been lucky talking to people like Simon and a number of the recruitment clients that we're involved in. Most organizations are already reusing AI. Very few are clear about where it actually belongs. So there's a pretty high probability in your tech stack somewhere you have AI, but you may not know it. And if you do know it, you may not be sure entirely what it's doing. So those 3 questions really will help you understand, okay, well, where are you today on AI naive or AI native, AI curious? Do you actually really understand your business in terms of where AI is working? And actually how you're using AI is really important to know, because there's this little thing called the EU AI Act, where you need to be able to demonstrate if you're using AI to make decisions on hiring, you need to be able to tell people why, but we'll come to that separately. So look, today is about getting that clarity and practically how to use AI without the jargon. So the real problem we see is actually not adoption. And I know everyone's like, oh, it's all about AI and adoption, but this is the assumption, right? And we come across this having spoken to hundreds of recruitment owners over the last 12, 18 months. The assumption is if your team isn't using enough AI tools, you're falling behind. So what recruitment leaders typically do is add more tools, right? But all you're doing is compounding the problem, because tool adoption was never the problem in the first place. The actual challenge is decision clarity. And what we mean by decision clarity is if you're a recruitment leader struggling to access AI, you need to be able to answer 4 questions before you go all in on AI. Question 1, where should AI sit inside our workflows? And in recruitment, the assumption is everyone uses the same workflows. I guarantee you, if we put 100 recruitment leaders or 100 recruitment business in a room, probably there'll be over 60 different workflows, because everyone's got their own little magic in terms of what they do as a recruiter. The second question is, where must humans stay accountable? AI is not about outsourcing the decision or outsourcing the activity. As a human, as a business owner, a recruitment leader, you are still accountable in some way, shape, or form. The third question that needs answering is, where does automation quietly create risk? And I referred to that previously when we talked about things like the EU AI Act and not knowing where decisions are being made in your business. And then the final question is, where does AI genuinely create value, not just activity? And later on in this slide, we're going to talk about the AI theatre, right? So think about the show. Everyone thinks about shiny AI is doing everything behind the scenes, and then they sit there at the end of the month and going, nothing's changed, nothing's moved. So if you can get those 4 questions right, it's worth more than adding another tool. And those 4 questions will help you actually get the right tools and the right stages and the right process. So what we've done is we've gone away as CritMatter and we've built 92, we've mapped out the process. There's 92 micro points where we've found AI can help. Those 92 micro points fit in under 8 core sections, which we'll come on to separately. But typically when people get buying AI, what they're trying to do is solve one of these 4 problems. They're trying to deal with speed, how to take away tasks that take hours away turned into minutes. So how do you compress hours into minutes without cutting corners? And cutting corners is really important. The second thing is, how do you get better signals? And better signals is about surfacing the right information at the right moment, reducing noise for the consultant. We are in a world where we are getting peppered with lots of information coming at us and lots of signals, whether it's WhatsApp, LinkedIn, from job boards, in your inboxes, SMS or iMessage if you use that as well. So what we're saying is that actually AI can actually help you surface the right information at the right moment, reducing noise for the consultant and actually stopping that paralysis through AI because they've got too much information coming at them. The third thing is consistency. How do you get the same quality of output at 6 a.m. on a Monday as 5 p.m. on a Friday, or whatever is your most optimum time? Or if you're doing the USA market, how when you start your day at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock, you are as optimum as when you finish your day at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And then the final one is reducing load. And reducing load is, how do you free up that mental bandwidth for the conversations and judgments that actually matter? If we think as recruiters, we get sucked into doing things that are a distraction, that are time stealers. Well, AI can help you actually free up some of that bandwidth. But here's the health warning, right? Don't think that I need to go on day 1 and look at all 92 steps, right? You need to think about where in the process the real work lives for you. So 92 steps is a general viewpoint, but knowing where the opportunity is in your business and in which ones and what you're trying to impact is critical. Okay, so I did say there's no jargon today. So here's a bit of a balanced view card on where AI does well and where it falls short. So AI performs strongly when work is repeatable and high volume. If it's the same activity over and over again at high volume, AI can actually save you so much time and actually make it more consistent as well. Anything that's pattern-based or data-heavy, you've got to remember AI has to learn. So if the pattern's the same, where it can learn and keep iterating, etc., or there's enough data for it to learn, act on, it will do well. Anything that's time-sensitive or structured, anything that's consistent in its input and expected outputs. So that's where AI performs strongly. On the flip side of it, this is where AI struggles with work when work requires anything around contextual judgment and reading between the lines. AI is not very good at reading between the lines. Ask AI if you've got ChatGPT or Gemini, ask it to spell strawberry and see how many times it gets it right. If there's an ethical consideration or sensitivity, if there's anything about relationship nuance, anything around client trust or candidate care or implied meaning, AI doesn't do very well. And anything that requires clear accountability when things go wrong. Ultimately, you are the recruitment business leader, the team leader, the owner of your business. You are accountable for your business, right? You can't turn around and say, I'm really sorry, the AI got it wrong. No one will care and you will lose your credibility. So AI is strong at processing information where human remains essential for deciding what matters. Okay, so there are 3 modes of work, and you may have seen this explained differently if you've read a McKinsey report or you were at the Rec Agency Expo or you've spoken to your tech partner. But fundamentally, rather than asking a question, should we use AI? Because that is a pretty pointless question now. Everyone should be using AI. The question you need to ask is, what mode does the task belong in? And I'm going to explain the modes in a minute, but effectively, in every part of your workflow, it fits into one of these 3 areas. It's either AI-led, so AI executes the task with defined guardrails. There's low judgment risk required. It's highly repeatable. There's minimum human review required. Those low tasks where actually AI can do its thing. The second area is hybrid, where AI can prepare and support. Then the human needs to review, interpret, and remains accountable for the outcome. As an example, for any of you using any form of LLM, the LLM produces the information. You still have to check it and decide whether you're going to use it or not. The third area is human critical, right? Anything that's judgment led, it's sensitivity, there's responsibility that's required. That has to firmly stay with the person. AI has no meaningful role here. So the simple rule that you need to think about is the higher the judgment risk, the more human involvement is required. So I'm going to say that again. The higher the judgment risk, the more human involvement is required. So AI should increase clarity and not quietly erode responsibility. And I'll go back to that point. If you think by implementing AI, you've outsourced it, you don't have to worry about it anymore, you're wrong. Someone still needs to be over that to make sure what the AI is doing, whether it's AI-led or hybrid, is doing the right things and is working to the right spec. Okay, so where does this show up in the recruitment workflow? And Simon and the team network have done, I think I've had over 300-400 team members go through their events in the start of the year. And some of these things showed up at the different events when we were talking about AI, because AI turned up at every event, when we were talking about the impact points, and also when we're talking to service partners or technology companies, this also turns up. So the bit in the middle is the intel. And we've called it AI Intel just to make it feel a little bit relevant to what we're talking about today. But if you think about the running track, effectively, this is the journey you go through as a recruiter. So you start off on the role, you then move to sourcing, and then you go all the way round to reporting and insight. Well, the reality is 92 steps that we've mapped out fit into one of these process maps. They can exist across the whole spectrum, or they can exist in particular areas. The key thing you've got to remember is AI improves when it works in a specific targeted zone, but you can always hand off from one and have that agentic AI flow of having one agent do something and hand off to a different one. But again, it goes back down to you've got probably your own maps. You can tailor this to work in your own flows and your own processes, and you have to work out what should be human, what's AI-led, and what's hybrid. Now, I am going to say one thing that's a bit controversial, and some of you may or may not agree. Even though we've got the 3 buckets or the 3 modes, some of these actions could be in all 3. It depends on your particular operating rhythm on where you put it. And that's really important to remember. You need to know your own business and how you work as well. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this diagram. I'm going to come to the picture in a minute. But this is where organizations get it wrong. There's some common mistakes that we have seen talking to individuals and taking them through the journey, or being inquisitive as well, where when people are deploying AI, they get it a bit wrong. So the first thing is tool first thinking. They go and buy the tools, and don't get me wrong, we all love a tool. I am just as guilty as anyone else on this call. When a shiny new tool turns up, I want to know all about it and see if I can play with it. But buying the tool before understanding the workflow problem means it's meant to solve will not work. So tool first thinking fails. The second thing is automation without redesign. Automating a broken process doesn't fix it. Sounds obvious, right? It just breaks faster or breaks more often. So if you're automating your process and bringing AI into it, you might need to redesign your processes. Just putting more on, hoping it will do the same thing, eventually your system will break. Then the final bit is unclear ownership. So when you go into a business, no one's certain on who is accountable for AI and what's involved. If you're a small recruitment business or a solo business, unfortunately, it's probably on you. You are the owner and you're responsible. If you're part of a bigger business, and we've been in some big organizations recently, even then, when you've got ops and you've got IT and you've got the CIO office, you've got the sales ops office, it gets confusing who actually owns it and who's responsible for making sure that the AI does what it's meant to do. So we talk about AI theater, right? And AI theater is basically, and we've all been through it, and you'll probably, if you close your eyes, you go, yep, that resonates. It's when there's lots of busy activity with no measurable outcome or improvement. So, think about, we've all been called busy idiots at some point. The output's produced, but nobody owns them. So either there's lots of activity going on, but there's no measurable output, or there's outputs, but no one's owning them, right? And then the final part is the tools are running in the background with no clarity on what they're actually doing or deciding. So if you compound those 3 things together, is a disaster, right? So AI does not remove responsibility. It just changes where responsibility sits. That shift needs to be deliberate. If you don't make that move, all you're going to do is your business will fall over and you'll do what most recruiters do, or most organizations. That doesn't work here. So the reason why I put this picture in here is this is basically what companies do today as a metaphor. So if you look in the middle, there are actually stairs coming up. If all you do is keep adding and you use the walls as the metaphor for AI tools and AI products, and you just keep putting them in wherever you want to put them in, but you don't redesign the whole flow, eventually it doesn't work. So in this particular instance, if you come up the stairs, you aren't getting anywhere. As a good example. Okay, so let's talk about where to start. And really for us, the key thing, if I can give you one bit of advice today, don't go away and implement AI to do everything for you straight away, right? Start with a couple of decisions in your workflow that already causes you friction. So some of the things to look out for is looking for those decisions that you make that happen frequently, either daily or weekly. So how can you either automate your inbox, or how can you make sure that the CVs that come in, you make sure get an auto response? Look for those decisions that rely on repeatable, structured information. The same thing is coming in, the same thing's going out. They're probably easy tasks to implement some AI stroke automation on. Anything that requires consistency across consultants. We've all got them in our businesses. We want everyone to do some things, or everyone gets the same output. Let's look for those opportunities where you can go, right, I can change the way our workflow operates to create some consistency very quickly. And then the final one is those bottlenecks that slow down the process. So in your business, typically there are bottlenecks where everything just comes to a standing halt, or it doesn't work, or anything that slows the process down. So for each one of those, ask the question, is it AI-led, hybrid, human-led? Doesn't have to be sophisticated, do it on a post-it note, do it on a scrap piece of paper. Just start off somewhere quick and easy. The one question will give you more clarity than demoing lots of tools. And go back to the point we made earlier on, there are 4 fundamental questions a recruitment business owner needs to answer today. This is where it sort of leads into as well. So here's some examples where teams are finding immediate value. CV summarization, right? So how do you take someone's CV? How do you summarize it? How do you get the key snapshots? There are lots of team partners that can help you out on this. And this has been around for a while. So the next stage is think about the role briefing preps. You take a job spec, you've taken information down. Then today, what normally happens is most people then type up that information, send it to the client, say, can you approve it? Well, you can use AI with your note takers or whatever tools you're using to take the briefing. It will create you a snapshot. You can then send that to a client and go, can you confirm this is what we've agreed? Quick and easy. It will save you time. You just need to polish it and make sure it's in your own language. The third thing is talent pool mapping. Now, this is really important. We're not talking about making decisions on hiring. We're talking about how do you map your talent pool. So how can you either take your existing data, your LinkedIn data, your data you're buying from a data provider, bring it all together and map out your talent pool with the right signals and the right information that you need. And then the final one is actually probably the one that I see most that people are using, which is the follow-up workflows. They're very easy and very simple. Now, how can you make sure every email that in your inbox gets a draft already produced? How do you make sure you don't miss anything? How do you make sure if you sent a CV, there's a trigger coming up to follow up straight away? And then the final one is knowledge capture. AI is great at capturing knowledge, but you still need to know whether the knowledge you've captured is fact or fiction. So don't believe everything that comes out of AI. Even if you're running a research program, you still need to check it and make sure what you're being told is correct. And then look, the tip on this one is start small, improve your signal quality. So we're talking about signals. Everything we're talking about is we're getting something that tells us this is the next best thing to do, or this is the action that needs to happen. You've got to build confidence based on real results. And everyone's going to have a different starting point and a different end point. Okay. So we said if you stay to the end, there's a really good deal coming your way. So what we have done working with Team Network is come up with a deal for team members. And the deal we've given them as part of Crit Matter is an extended trial period, ready to run agents. So you don't have to think about what can AI do for me. We've already created a whole bunch of ready to go agents. So you go, well, actually, I fancy giving that a go. Let me click on that and off I go. We can help you map out the AI fiable points in your business. And if we can't do it, we have a whole bunch of partners that can do operations mapping and workflow work with you to help optimize your flow. And then the final one is how do you prioritize your user cases? So the practical guidance on where do you start first to either get the fastest results, the clearest return. If you are a team member, then go to Team HQ and find out more about your exclusive deal. You've got up to 60% off our rate card as a special deal. If you're not a team member and you're a recruitment company, you can either go and speak to Team about how do you become a member and get the deal, or if you get in touch with the Crit Matter team at hello@critmatter.com, because you've attended today's LinkedIn Live, we'll give you a discount, not as good as a team member discount, but still a good discount. But the idea of what we're trying to do is how do you make sure that anyone can become AI savvy, AI native, doesn't need to become a programmer or know how to do coding, has total transparency, but more importantly, you can test and keep going. And whether you choose after the trial period not to carry on with Crit Matter, that's okay. That means at least you've tried something and hopefully you're going to be more informed. And then the final part really is if you want to continue the conversation, there's a lot of topics we've raised today. I'm sure we'll deal with some of them in the Q&A shortly. But if you've got questions about your workflows, how your team approaches it, or simply where to begin, and that's the simple thing is, where do I start? With all the AI noise, what do I do first? We can help you work through it. So typically it's like, well, where can AI genuinely fit in the workflows? How do you design AI-enabled processes without losing control? How to avoid AI theater. and I have stolen that from someone. If you came up with that term, thank you very much. And ensure real outcomes in your business. And then finally, how to keep human judgment where it matters most. Recruitment is still a contact business. We still need to ensure the relationships are built human to human. And one of the things we've not really mentioned today is you'll hear a term, human in the loop. Any workflow or any supplier that you're buying products from, you need to understand, okay, well, what is your human in the loop factor, and where can I make sure I can check before things go forwards, or where can I check if an action is run automatically with AI? How do I know? Back over to you, Simon.
Shall I unmute? Does that help?
That would help.
I was just checking on my ChatGPT what's the best recruitment network for a startup in the UK, and it was Team Network. And we've actually had 2 new members find us on searching ChatGPT, which is the new Google.
Well, it's interesting. I know we didn't cover it in this, and that's probably a marketeer's session, Simon. But one of the things I would recommend to anyone listening and watching this is, the old world of SEO was all about the web. Yeah. There's two or three different terms. No one's fixed on, is it AIO, AEO, whatever it is. But basically, you can optimize your LLM ranking by making sure you come up the right way as well. So if you run a recruitment business and you want to be found on a ChatGPT, etc., you should go and explore that as well.
Yeah, and use, you put your website on there. Look at Ask Chat for better optimizations and language and just assessments for the markets you're targeting as well. We got Chat to review with some deep thinking our website, and it got us to change the messaging, and the click-through rates and the sticky rates have gone up thanks to that. So there's loads of different ways you can use it. We had a drop-in session yesterday. I'm going to tell this little story quickly. We had a drop-in session yesterday for our manufacturing and engineering group, and it was Andy Dunn ran that, of course, because he's our managing director, and he of course he attached a note taker, and it was a great little session because firstly people introduced themselves and said who they are, what their strengths were, what markets they served. Then it also after that they did a bit of a round table with the session, and then at the end, Andy dropped all the chat from the note taker into ChatGPT with some key prompts and said, give me an overview of the session, and also have a look at, because what Team does is we collaborate. He said, what members should collaborate with each other that perhaps aren't collaborating at the moment? And it was a really cool session. And what happened in the end was it suggested that they covered subjects like market conditions, what the current pain points, what is working, what's not, candidate market challenges, and then had a quick wrap up. But when he squeezed it through ChatGPT with the right prompts, and Kalpesh, the first session that you ran with Tom was all about prompting, wasn't it? So if you've missed that first session, prompting is the goal. But it gave an overview and strength of each member, which we've shared with everyone who was on the session. It's then suggested who you should collaborate with. So Jim should collaborate with Matt because they've got the same mindset, they're in the same markets, that they should work together. It also focused on all the business development ideas and consolidated them. It focused on the candidate attraction. People discussed what activity and discipline that is working within their organizations, what outreach communication was working, and then we had a chat evaluated the feedback we had on the being members of Team Network and the specific value, and then it closed with marketing insights, not the ideas but the important context that was in the discussion. So it was that within 5 minutes of finishing the meeting, the guys had a consolidated overview, and we shared that out through our regional director with the members that attended. And so people started to collaborate immediately because the system had connected them.
So
and
that's
it
a
was
really
based upon
interesting
the
example
information they had.
in terms of what we've just been talking about, Simon. Actually, that's a brilliant example of hybrid, right? So
Yeah.
so you've gone with AI's working on its own in the background, but can't do anything. So the note takers. So what Andy's done is that hybrid model of, okay, well, AI works, it does what it does, it captures the notes. There's a little bit of briefing going on, and there's a little bit of information on the back end. But actually, Andy he's the human in the loop that's made the decision on, is that correct? Because it will need tuning. And obviously, connecting the wrong people together is also just as bad as connecting the right people together. So I think, that is a very good case study of actually a hybrid process working.
Yeah.
Where you take AI and a human, and there's some amazing tools out there now for, recording note takers on telephone calls, but also face to face as well now.
Well, that's brilliant as well. I mentioned it earlier, and thanks, Jahisha, because you put the first session on that you ran, Kalpesh, with Tim, how to prompt like a pro, and that helped Andy definitely in his prompting to get us all that consolidated, useful data that was recorded by the note taker in that session. As some of you team members know, we've got a lot of online sessions in Q2 rather than face to face, because we got conference coming up on June the 4th and 5th. So what we're going to do is use that model with the note taker and the prompts for consolidation at the end of the meeting, and then share that with all the network to enhance the collaboration process. Because yet again, we've got Team Exchange, really booming with new jobs at the moment, and people wanting to job share, and so some cracking jobs on there at the moment. 125k role in London, 300k role in New York. So and a forklift driver in Manchester for who's on 35,000. So slightly underpaid, I think. But there's a mix for everyone there. But any questions from the group on this, or any challenges you've got in your own AI world? Please feel free and humble enough to fire to Kalpesh, because I'm sure he'll have an answer, or he'll know someone that has. Jim said it's the first session on the team website. Yes, it is, Jim. It is there. Tim Bennett did that about 3 weeks ago, didn't he? And you've got 3 more to go, haven't you?
We've got 3 more to go. So what we're doing is, and this is it's the team series. So in fairness to Andy and you, Simon, you were like, right, we want to do this for our members. That's where it started. Yeah. And when we were scoping this out, it was, we mapped it. We mapped out the 5 journeys. So the first one was how to prompt like a pro. The second one is how do you know when to use AI and when you don't. The next session we're running is actually how do you use AI and help you in sort of time management, because one of the challenges in the world we have is we're producing so much output now. Is how do we make that time, and how do we make sure we follow up? The fourth one is actually coming back round and going, well, how do you use things like ChatGPT to do some of those basic things that you need? Because you don't always need agents. Some of the times it's the basic things, and we've got support on that one. And then the final one actually is we've got an international person involved. So we've got the world famous Vanessa Rath, who's coming to talk to us about how do you use AI in talent sourcing. And then the final session, if you can all stay around till September and stay tuned, I think it's going to be August or September, we're actually going to bring a panel together of everyone that's done these sessions, so we can mash up all the different viewpoints and see whether there's some common trends. But the whole idea of what we're trying to do, and it goes back to fair play to team, it was like you identified a problem, having listened to your members, that there was an education gap. We put these together, and Andy and you were like, why don't we give it to everyone, not just team?
Yeah. No, most definitely. The recruitment, our recruitment friends outside of team need all the help they can get in this tough market, and we're happy to share a lot of that.
And one thing I would say to anyone listening, Simon, is go and talk to your clients. Your clients are having the same problems.
They are.
Yeah. So a lot of what we're sharing here, you can probably relate it to your clients because they're having the same thing, challenges around where do I use AI in the recruitment process. So if you flip the lens, and you could have a pretty smart conversation.
I've got a session that I'm trying to set up for people. I was lucky enough to go to a conference out in Texas last month, and there was a speaker there from Recruitix, which is a big American, but they're based in the UK as well. They're specialists on job boards and talent acquisition and finding, advising on candidates, and they're aggregators too. But one of the smart things the guy was talking about was, he said, if you could be a brilliant recruiter, you go to meet the client, he gives you a job, you qualify that job, you go away and you go, well, thank you, Mr. Client, I'll go and find some candidates for you. But he said, if you do your research with some of our tools and the AI that's attached to that, he said, thank you for the job, Mr. Client. He said, you're looking for field service engineers in San Antonio, Texas, in a 20-mile radius. Very interesting. Let me give you some feedback on what's happening in the market. He said, you've got 5 competitors that are pitching for they're offering the same service. Rather painfully, you've got the lowest feedback on, I'm trying to think of the
Glassdoor or something like that.
Glassdoor, yeah. Thank you. You've got the lowest response on Glassdoor from your suppliers. Your salary level is at the bottom end of what all the other people are paying, and actually the talent pool of employed and unemployed field service engineers in San Antonio there's 110 of them, and there's only 2 that are unemployed, and you want 5 now. So you need to think about, what you're going to offer. He said, if you go 20 miles and you pay a surcharge, you'll support people for relocation or traveling expenses, you can twitch some more. But it was a brilliant way of showing Mr. Client that you understand his market, and you understand the talent pool of the market implicitly, and you understand where he sat in the market, which he probably hadn't had some thought process. They're just thinking about where they are and not where they potentially where all their competitors are. So I'm going to get him to do a session online in the UK, because he's based in New York, but it'll just give some insights into control and qualification of some of the roles that we get, so that you raise yourself from supplier through to partner and consultative partner at that, and using some of the AI tools to find some of the key data and information, so that you can showcase your knowledge of that market and of the talent pool and where they sit in that market as well. So it gives you control from the word go.
I think it's interesting. The last London meeting we ran, I mean, I'm using London particularly because we had 50 odd people in the room, right? So it's a good cross section for team. But in fact, it was the same there, and the general feedback I know Andy and you have shared with me. So there's 2 things. One, remember, you are going to have to be a bit patient and train the AI to find the right data for you, right? So don't sit there and think, I want to rock up today and put a query in, and if you put a bad prompt in, you're going to get bad information. Right, anyway, but you're going to have to train the agent about the type of information you need, bless you, and how you go forwards on that. So that's the first part of it. The second part, with what you've just described, and again, this seems to be a common pattern when we're talking to recruitment leaders at the moment, that 2026 seems to be more about products and services. If you're using AI to understand the problem statement and what the client really needs and what they're going to come up against, it's then easier for you to sell more of those products and services that create sticky revenue. None of us want to be in the world where we're all about contingency fees, and 1 in 10 jobs that we work on turns into a fee. So how do we change that around and go, right, how can I use AI to help me find that information, find that data, work quicker, do a risk assessment? So one of the tools we've built is an SOW, risk analyzer. So if you're selling statement of works, using the 16 questions, we'll go, right, it's a go, no go, or have you thought about these risks in the process? But then you, as a recruiter, you can sell those services that are either premium, value add, but most importantly, keep you sticky with that client for the long term.
Yeah. No, I love that, Kalpesh. And going back to you're right to move the conversation through to outcomes, because if we take the example I just gave with Recruitix and his ideas and his presentation use of that product, which you could put together yourself with a couple of agents. Two, you firstly you go to Mr. Client, you take the job and you qualify it as you perhaps normally would, and you go away with your 18 to 20% on, and they try and squeeze you down a little bit on that because they've got other people that will do it for less. Or you go in with a real overview of the talent market, the review of where they are with their Glassdoor and their salary levels, and also how many free and what the competition is for that talent pool in, say, the San Antonio field service market for 15-mile radius. Then if you can pitch whatever you like at that. You can say, Mr. Client, because we understand the market and we know we've got to tease some people out of other roles, or we've got to relocate some people, you're going to need to expend this. We know how to manage that, but our rates are 25%, and we only work exclusively. We're not going to go to all this trouble if we're going to be in a multi-agency scenario, and B, we do like an upfront payment to handle our advertising. So you've got some skin in the game.
And if I link this back, Simon, because she'll only kill me if I don't mention her, right? If we bring this back to what Michelle Davis offers it now, our team members, as that amazing package of branded adverts.
Yeah,
this would help you understand when do I put that in there as a solution.
Yeah.
So if I didn't mention her, I think she'd probably beat me up. So Michelle, you got to mention.
Actually, Andy had a great example where he was chatting to one of our members the other day who said, I've just placed, he's just said, I've just won some revenue with a new client, and they've had, over the past 4 months, they've had 4 or 5 branded adverts. So I've got revenue from advertising. And he said, I'm making 100% markup on my costs from candidate source. We're buying cheap, selling high, and he said it's been slightly different because I've evolved the service. I just gave them all the candidates and folded my arms and took the money. Didn't have to think about it. And then because one of the ads had a really good response, they asked me to shortlist. So I added another £500 for the shortlisting exercise based upon their criteria. So that the branded ad as a product is really working. Once people understand it, embrace it, and know how to sell it.
Yeah. I think there's a question that's just come up from Denny. Denny, everything we've been talking about today is about generic tools. We're not diving down into specific LLMs or chat GPTs or particular products, because the idea of today was to try and take people from that AI naive stroke AI curious to actually, I can do this. And I said, the first question we sort of try and get people shouldn't be asking, should I use AI? The question should be, how do I use AI and where?
Yeah, Denny, if you go back to the link that Jahisha put up earlier with Tim Bennett's session, you'll be able to click on that YouTube link and get that. He gave a really nice, clear, broad overview of all the different tools that you could use, whether it be ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, little features and benefits of each one, which work better in different environments. So it's worth having a look at that session, especially at the end, give you a bit of an overview if you want to test some of those for different areas. But he loved Claude, didn't he, for marketing? And he said it in what was the other one that has got its own studio for work? I'm trying to think.
You've got Gemini, you've got Claude.
Gemini. It was Gemini. There's a studio in Gemini, I think, that
for images.
is incredibly for video and assessments there. Cool.
Yeah. So there's definitely different ones coming through. Okay, I'm safe. She's driving home from Bristol. Good.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
So I think the other thing I'd just say on the AI bit before we go forwards is, don't be scared, right? Because it's okay to get it wrong. And look, the worst thing you could ever do is buy a really expensive tool You know, if you've just passed your driving test, you don't go and buy a Ferrari, do you? Well, you do if you're really wealthy, but you buy a sensible car that gets you on the road, to get you used to driving. And then as you get more confident and richer, you then start buying better cars. So I think this is the same logic with AI. Don't think you've got to go and buy the most powerful product out there, particularly if you've never used any AI. Start small. And the big thing we talk about is experimentation. You know, you've got to be curious about these new things coming through, and you've got to experiment. You've got to try different tools, different products. Not everything's going to work, and not everything will work the first time.
Cool. Thank you, Kalpesh. Any more questions, folks? But thank you for joining us. If that's it, have we got any more? I don't think so. Kalpesh, thanks again for a really insightful session. You keep, it's you, because you have that knowledge. You're already doing some great stuff for us with CryptMatter, and we're building some agents to help us with our sales outreach, our onboarding for new members, and also engagement of members that aren't coming to so many meetings, and re-educating and re-engaging those. So lots of smart little things you're helping us with CryptMatter agents that we're really loving. So yeah, I encourage people to have a chat with Kalpesh and CryptMatter about the fantastic products they're developing. Super fast, really creative, and save you hours and win you more business. And much more productivity, which is, I think, the game.
And I think the key thing on this one, Simon, is like, look, you know, come and try it. If you don't like it, don't stay. You know, we don't lock you into a long-going contract. No. It's number one. The second thing is we built the product off the back of people like me, who was like, how do I get on this AI journey? How do I get involved? And I've just gone in. I've had that time to do it. But no one should get left behind on the AI journey going forward. So if we can help you sort of get a bit more confident, we've done our job.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, sir. And thank you all for joining us today. And watch out, when's the next one, Kalpesh? When's the next session?
The next one is in May, and that is with Toye, who's going to be talking about AI in how do you use AI for time management and leadership.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Have a great day, everyone, and look forward to seeing you soon, hopefully at the next session. All the best.
Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye for. Thank you.